I have been kind of testing the limits of what it can understand in terms of human dynamics and what it can understand in terms of like personalities and connections and human relationships. It's frighteningly good in some senses. Yeah. So like it is, it's worth an experiment anyway, because I'm trying to think beyond factual, beyond content, beyond assessment, beyond those things, what's going to happen at the edges of that ethical dimension.
Hello and welcome to the Test Community Network Web Weekly Update. My name's Tim Burnett. I hope you're safe and well. This week, we're going to be talking about how AI could change how we learn and socialise and the impact it's going to have on society as a whole. This is a continuation from the conversation I had with Rita Bateson. So this is part 2. Last time, we were talking about the environmental impacts. And interestingly, there was a new MIT report that's come out about the energy footprint from AI as well. It's quite startling really as to how big this is going to be, and going to get even more kind of a bigger footprint really, and it's going to have a bigger impact on lives as more people adopt it. You might be using it, but not everyone else is. Still kind of small proportion of society that are using AI. And when you talk about a kind of search with AI being 10 times more than a Google search or something like that, then that's going to have a big impact. So anyway, as ever, anything you hear in the show, you can go to the testcommunity.network. You can subscribe for free on there. There's going to be an update coming to the website soon. I'm just finalizing the design of it. It's going to kind of change and shift how it presents the information. So look out for that. As ever, let's just give you a quick update as to what's going on. Then we can play the second part of the interview with Rita. So NBME Assessment for Learning webinar registration, that's on today. You might just catch that because it'll be US. Likewise, the National Council for Measurement in Education, they've got the where, what, and how job market for measurement professionals. So if you're someone particularly in the US based and you're interested to know what the impact is going to be going forward, then measurement professionals webinar is going to be for you. The Certification Network group, these are great events. In person are brilliant. The virtual ones are very good as well. So they've got online surviving and thriving in a challenging environment. So it's worth checking that out. And that's on the 4th of June. Then we've got the 4th to the 5th to the 26th Cambridge Assessment Network question writing for effective assessment. That's a workshop that you can sign up to. Mathematical cognition, latest research and implications for assessment. That's an Eventbrite based event, so it's worth checking out if you're interested in maths. We've got the One EdTech webinar, credential your students and staff with CLR. So if you're interested in One EdTech, then you can check that out. ATP, I've got a session coming up, which is reimagined, compliant and creative pathways for K-12 evaluation. So if you're interested in that and you like the work that ATP do, then check that out. Then there's the National Future for Education Technology, Empowering Identity, building a strong, secure, authentic management. That's a hybrid event, I believe. It's worth looking at that as well. And now we've got an interview with Rita. The one thing I just want to point out, make sure you go to the E-Assessment Association website. The final kind of last couple of weeks, buy tickets before the big event. It starts on the 9th. That's the National Roundtable and the AI Symposium. Then there's a main conference 10th and 11th. On the evening of the 10th, I've got the awards ceremony, and there's some incredible projects which are really deserving all as finalists. Obviously, there can only be one winner in each category. So I think there's 11 categories this year. So plenty of awards to be given out, and be a great event. So if you're in the e-assessment game, then it's the place to be in London. London is the place for me. There we go. Right, on to my interview now with Rita. So here's the second part, and we pick up talking about politeness and Sam Altman's comments. Altman said about saying please and thank you is costing millions in terms of processing usage. Now, I heard a counter kind of argument to this, is that someone was talking about how we would discuss how we ask and how we engage with these prompts, because there's an opportunity that one thing with social media is it's in a way it's taught us bad habits, and if we go down the route of talking and using AI without saying please and thank you, then there's a chance that we'll start to emulate that in our natural behavior and conversations with other people. So there's a potential, the way that AI, as it will potentially become the new social media kind of route, that we could, I suppose, help not engineer, but kind of guide society in being more polite. So you could almost have ChatGPT refusing to do anything unless you actually say please, which would be kind of nice in a way, wouldn't it? Because it'd help shape society and almost put those kind of cost implications of saying please and thank you to one side. It's actually a nicer thing to do because, let's face it, as my wife keep pointing out, these things are going to rule us one day, so we might as well be nice to them now, might we? You don't want your Alexa profile.
AI overlords. I do think that, that comment enraged me because I thought for one thing, it's not my responsibility to reduce his energy bills. I thought your energy bills are also exceptionally high. And I was also doubly irritated because these data mining, these scraper bots that they're deploying to get all of the data they can. I don't know, you've probably had this already happen to you, but twice recently, just sheer demand of the scraping. My website's been down because of the high CPU of that. So it exceeded my normal CPU requirements. So I thought, well, how very dare you suggest that my please and thank you is what's going to cost you your energy consumption. But it does have a deeper point than that, because in assessment in the IB, we often talked about positive backwash, which was my least favorite phrase, but most important concept in terms of, what we did in the e-assessment might drive changes in standards in the classroom, and it might increase, by our visibility and our modeling would show schools what we really meant by good assessment. It is possible that I take your point there. It could be a social engineering impact of it. I'm already seeing it in people's writing. Kids' writing especially, where they're using the Oxford comma so much more than they ever did before, and often wrong. They're using, the usual bullet points and emojis problems. But it is, I found myself using the Oxford comma the other day, and I'm very I'm very cognitively aware of that. And I thought, if even I'm doing it and I'm watching out for it, it must be prevalent. It must be everywhere. It must be changing the way people are talking, the way people are thinking. That's something that we need to safeguard against as well. So then in terms of the ethical AI, that's something where I want students to be, and teachers to be, really aware of what it can do to your neural programming and what we want it to do. Is it going to make us more efficient, less polite, potentially? Can we make it more polite? Absolutely. The whole point is that it's sycophantic and it is designed to please us and give us the answer we want, whether it's true or not. So I think that's something that we need to think a lot more about as well in terms of assessment, because of, if you take away hallucinations and if you take away energy demand, what matters at the end of it is learning. And if we're not safeguarding learning through assessment, then what are we doing in schools? Schools may as well shut up shop entirely, and we can all have personalized AI tutors at home, who tell us what we want to hear. That
is the problem, isn't it? They'll tell us what we want to hear, and we'll listen to everything that comes through, and every compliment that it gives us, etc., thinking that there is no, I'm perfect here. AI's told me I'm perfect, so it's fine. Just very quickly, then, the kind of concept of cognitive offloading, this idea that we're getting a little bit lazy, and there was an academic, Australian academic, I think, came up with an alternative phrase that I didn't like that, but I can't quite remember what that was. But just sticking with that idea of cognitive offloading, what's your kind of perception on that as a kind of a problem or a risk to us as we kind of adopt AI? Do you think that's going to have a significant? Could it be a significant issue for society, or do you think it's just a blip at the moment?
I think it's something to be watched with care. I think if we think about the memory offloading we've already been through as a society, that we haven't, that we have abdicated so much of our storage to other things, be it paper, be it your phone, be it, we've been through a memory offloading phenomenon where it's fairly commonly accepted that everybody knows their childhood phone number, but they don't know their partner's current phone number. That level of memory offloading has already happened. In terms of cognitive offloading, both anecdotally, and I think I've seen 1 or 2 studies on it, but not very many, but anecdotally, when I go into schools and I'm doing training with teachers on AI literacy, if I ask them the title of the last 5 TV shows they binge watched, most people can tell me 2 or 3, but not all 5. And that really surprises me that we've kind of, I'll hear people say, well, I could look it up on my feed, or I could check that for you now. Those kind of things. It is definitely a phenomenon, whether it's clinical, whether it's something we need to watch. Yeah, I'm aware of it. I think a lot of people kind of, it's a little bit like the phenomenon of ambient listening, that your phone is always listening, and that you get the feeling that it's listening, and you get these ads popped up that are targeted to you and so on. Is it like that? Is it a difference without being a distinction, I don't know, but I definitely am interested in it. We're seeing it in students of younger years more than older years.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's because of habit formation. I don't know, but we're definitely seeing a tendency to reach for AI first rather than talk to the person beside them. We're seeing a tendency to go straight to the screen. Now, we saw that tendency before, like you said, with social media. We saw that in terms of connection. We've seen that already. Maybe it's connection offloading as the next phenomenon, but it's definitely, there are worrying signs. There are also really good things that we're seeing the students cognitively get offloading in the sense of they're getting rid of the minutiae that don't matter. You know, they're doing a prioritization, an orchestration of tasks. And for those kids who really have trouble prioritizing, it's great for that because they can cognitively offload the less important things. But unfortunately, they don't always distinguish between the two. But those that can are in a much better place. They kind of orchestrate the lower order skills, and then they use AI for the things that really matter, like analysis or synthesis or things that they can, that they could do but aren't. So with the students quite often, and the teachers too, we do like a deliberation process that you need to think about. Is this the best? Like, is this a cognitive advantage? Is this a bypass, a shortcut, and so on? But not enough people are probably doing that every time they reach for AI because they're not designed for that. They're not designed for deliberation, and they're not designed for a pause of reflection before you think, is this going to make me a better learner in the long run? They're designed to be convenient. And maybe it's a myth of efficiency, and maybe it's a myth of they're going to make all our jobs defunct, because nothing in history has led us to that new jobs emerge and old jobs die out. But I think this is the first time we've had the potential of something with consciousness that would be smarter than us. And as your wife says, there's no amount of schooling that can prepare you for that. I don't know if you've ever tried. Have you ever tried in a conversation where you've recorded it, like a training session or a podcast? Have you asked it about the power dynamics or,
No, I haven't actually, no.
The underlying messages being said? Really interesting. We've done this on our podcast a few times where I've said, what are the power dynamics of this conversation? What is the tone of what's the sentiment analysis of this conversation? The observations it comes up with is so interesting, so scary. What it can pick up in the unsaid, what it can pick up in the interaction in the interview. Really, really interesting. Give it a try. Just play with it just to see if you're not convinced that it's somewhat sentient by the end of it.
Well, yeah, no, I'll definitely try that. I think there was a report from Claude recently, wasn't there? It was saying the 50% chance that Claude is sentient. I don't quite think we're at that kind of position yet, but it's something that's going to happen, isn't it? Or of sorts, isn't it? Whether or not, we'll. And I think people talk about whether or not AGI will become human, and I think that's very much on how we're going to treat it in the future. Some really good. I'm going to try that out definitely. Some really interesting points there. I think.
No, just because I've never, like, you can test things factually all day long, right? But the interhumans, the interpersonal skills that we keep saying, it'll be fine, we'll still need relationships. It'll be fine, we'll still need human contact. It'll be absolutely fine because a doctor isn't the same as a medical analyst. But I think, like, it is interesting. I have been kind of testing the limits of what it can understand in terms of human dynamics and what it can understand in terms of like personalities and connections and human relationships. It's frighteningly good in some senses. So like it is, it's worth an experiment anyway, because I'm trying to think beyond factual, beyond content, beyond assessment, beyond those things, what's going to happen at the edges of that ethical dimension. But it's very good. It's incredibly good. So for those of us who maybe aren't the best social engagers, it's a good reflective tool. But it's fascinating. It was fascinating, and I agree with you. I don't think AGI. I'm not threatened or not worried about AGI.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about consciousness. I think those are things that humans have a capacity to understand. And I suppose if nothing else, after COVID, we've seen what collaborative problem solving looks like. And also there's a risk we'll run out of energy anyway, so that's fine. We can switch it off. But what it's going to do to students, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and what it's going to do to her brain, that's the bit that keeps me up at night. And that's why I'm not watching Black Mirror or Adolescence or anything like that, because I couldn't handle the anxiety. But it is very interesting. If nothing else, it's interesting.
I think your kind of point on the generational thing is I'm 47. I consider myself one of the fortunate generation in the fact that before the internet came along, we knew the time before the internet, didn't we? We knew the kind of the process we went through there. We've kind of got, back in the day when there was only 3 TV channels or whatever, and I think what we can't do from generation to generation, because I see this sometimes on my social media feeds from the kind of boomer generation, kind of looking back at the younger generation, going, look at them spending all the time on the phones and all those kind of things. Well, the kids of today didn't invent the phones. They didn't invent AI. They were born into that world. We created that world for them, and then what we can't do is just criticize them for using the technology that we gave them. So we do need to constantly, as a society, look at how we can support the upcoming generations without criticizing them on that. And that applies to energy use and all those things, as well as the kind of cognitive side of life and the social side of life. I think it's just very quickly on the social side of things. I heard a report, I think it was Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg was defending some trial recently. He was saying something like only, I think it was something really low, like 40% of interactions on Facebook are actually with people that you know. So this idea of the social network is actually, it's rubbish. It's the vast majority of the interactions with people that you've never even met, or it's almost like it's an entertainment channel, isn't it, more than an actual social platform. So how we develop this technology, back to that point earlier, we have no control as to how society will adopt it, and we just need to make sure that we're educating it. It sounds as though from the work you're doing a fantastic job helping people understand the kind of implications of these technologies and educating society. I hope there's a nice broadcast channel for that. Is there somewhere that people can find out more information from you about the work that you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're a company called Eblana Learning, which is Eblana is the old name for Dublin. And I suppose because we are the land of saints and scholars and data centers, I think that I chose that as our kind of name, because we're very proud of our history of sending out monks who would build institutions across Europe, and then during the Dark Ages they protected the sacred texts with their lives. And the only reason we still have a copy of ancient Greek is because the Irish monks saved it above all else. And I thought that was the message that we're thinking about, like what truly matters. This is, like you say, the first generation to have all of this incredible indulgence and all of this incredible privilege, and also they're the first generation that truly won't have the ability to be forgotten. They don't have the capacity to make mistakes like we did privately and be forgotten and be a bit of an idiot now and again. And there is a responsibility that we have to them, not to pass that on to them as a judgment and as a kind of a cruelty. Because my daughter, I mean, she can't tell a lie to me, because it'll be tracked. I can somehow check it on some app. I can see if she's been on her phone. I can see if she's been watching TV. I can see if she ate something that she wasn't supposed to. There is no capacity for them to really get away with the edges of the margins of experimentation. So I think what really we have to take a moment between the AI hype and the AI, the fear and skepticism, to think, what is the middle ground? What's moderate? So that's something that we do with schools. We work with mostly international schools, IB schools specifically, but any schools at all who need it, to working through the AI panic and the AI storm with schools. So come visit us on eblanalearning.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. But it's something that I think is really important. We don't need another person lecturing in the space. We need actual suggestions. We need techniques. We need strategies. We need plans for AI governance in schools, for AI assessment in the future, and curriculum development. And it's going to upend teaching and learning, but let's keep what's important. Let's preserve the sacred texts insofar as we can.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like a fantastic mission you're doing, and I kind of implore my audience to reach out to you. I'll put connection links within the show notes so people can find you there. But yeah, I hope to hear more from you, Rita, as we go on this. We've got a long journey, haven't we, with this? And
we do. But we have energy. We have energy, and we're in the arena, so that's what matters. Excellent. We're not going to vacate the space to big tech. That's what's important.
No, it's good. I must admit, I'm really quite enthused to be working now, at any point in my kind of career. And I suppose I was fortunate in the fact that when I first went from university into a job, that was part of the kind of .com kind of boom time. I think this is another boom time, isn't it, that we all need to kind of embrace. But well, thank you very much for your time. I thought it was a fascinating conversation. I think we covered a lot of ground there, and I'm sure we'll have lots of people reaching out to us for further engagement. So thank you very much, Rita, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It was an absolute privilege and a joy. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. Thank you for that, Rita. That was excellent. Some really interesting points there. I think, we have to be fair to the future generations, particularly, like I say, I feel very privileged in the fact that, I've seen, I was kind of there in the kind of spectrum 48K days early, the pre-internet, kind of using computers in that world. Then the internet came along, and so I've experienced life before mobile phones, before smartphones, and those kind of things. And just like Rita said, the kids of today are just going to be born into the world that they've always known. It's almost like being born into a world where there's always been cars. You never knew the time before there were cars. It's that kind of territory. So we do need to be very mindful of how AI, which is hugely significant, really. And I don't think people have quite grasped that just yet. I think we're all still skirting around the edges of it. But, I'm hearing and seeing more and more kind of conversations about just how big the impact is going to be on the way we work, particularly in terms of white collar jobs, those kind of things. Just the huge impact it's going to have on the work that we do now. I'm not saying that we're all going to be out of a job, but we do need to all dramatically shift away our thinking about how we perform our job, what we do in our job, and what the expectations of new candidates and students and people that are joining your organizations are going to have when they join. They're coming out of university where they've only now, the graduates going through have only ever known the use of AI. So yeah, hugely interesting. Rita will be speaking at the AI Symposium at the e-assessment question conference. I'm hugely looking forward to hearing more of her thoughts, particularly about the environmental side of things. So I'm really looking forward to that. And please reach out if you're going to the EAA conference. Then please reach out to me. I'd love to catch up with you and meet beforehand. So drop me a line, drop me a link. And as ever, if you enjoy this conversation and with Rita and other conversations as part of the TESS Community Network, please do put a review on your favorite podcast channel through LinkedIn, wherever it is you're watching, and just tell me what it is you like and what you want to hear more of in the future. Okay, there we go. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.